Hola, buenos días, soy Nico.
Don't laugh. You can't laugh.
So today we are here in my New York apartment. Nico, I have a face mask on because I've been breaking out. I have not been able to wear my do-rag because I've been breaking out on my forehead. New York always makes you break out. I've been stressed because I just moved here. But point is, we are back. I would show you around the room, but essentially it's just a bunch of empty boxes and a bunch of bags that I have to unpack. So we're just going to look at this blank wall and hopefully you do not hear my roommate. But essentially today we're here to talk about the situation between Khi Lavene, Keanu, Munjileel, and Chino Black. Nico, why'd you say it like that? First and foremost, Chino Black, to my knowledge, is not necessarily usually in mess for any reason, especially because he's one of the veterans, so I was not expecting him to hop in on this one, but it did pertain to his content, so I can't necessarily be mad. But I think the entire situation was blown out of proportion, and it was partially used for marketing. Nico, what do you mean? So essentially, let me get to the story because I've been ranting long enough. But before that, if you like this kind of content, make sure to follow me on Patreon at patreon.com/Nicosaesthetics for more exclusive live weekly videos. Be a part of the podcast, which should be airing. As soon as I moved to New York, I got sick and I did not have time to edit because I also had to host an event. I was just like, I was gone. Point is, the podcast should be coming out this week. Fingers crossed, no takesy-backsies. But let's move forward. Today we're going to be talking about how Keanu basically said those cabin trips do not be sexy to me. Nico, what do you mean? What is a cabin trip? If you did not know, on Freak Twitter, there's a situation called a cabin trip, where a lot of the popular Black performers, they all go to this remote cabin, sometimes in the woods, sometimes just in a vacation area, and they just have a hunch fest. Nico, what is a hunch fest? Essentially, they're all just in the cabin having super happy adult fun time with one another, with 2 people, with 3 people, the entire group. Sometimes they sneak away. Nico, I'm not too familiar with it because, like Keanu said, those cabin trips don't be sexy to me. I don't find them sexy beyond maybe like the first one, because at first it was like a novelty. It's like, oh, they're all getting together as a group of friends and they're doing these freaky things. But as soon as you boil it down to, oh, they're all just there to do like work, is no longer that entertaining, especially because sometimes the cameraman isn't necessarily the best. Sometimes the lighting isn't necessarily the best. Sometimes the background audio, where you can hear people having loud ass conversations and laughing and hooping and hollering while you're trying to focus on the scene, is not the best. Nico, I've watched like 1 to 2 of them. I think there's like a plethora of them, but I personally watched the ones that my favorite performers were in because I was on their OnlyFans, but it wasn't necessarily for me. And that's somebody who has done the whole group scene before. It's just like, it's not necessarily my forte, especially if the camera work and the lighting is not there, but that's just me personally. But basically, from his 1 sentence opinion on a public content, they got mad, and Khi Lavene began to go in on him, and he began to call him a camel and compared his knots on his forehead from when Munjileel put his hands on him, and it just became an entire situation from a simple, I don't find these trips sexy. And Chino Black also joined in, because once they started going back and forth, he was like, no, y'all need to realize you should be giving your opinion about food or music, not anything that has to deal with me. And as a performer, I want to say you can give your opinion on someone's content, but it usually has to have like an ending point to it. Like, sometimes you're nitpicking, sometimes you're critiquing, sometimes just an innocent opinion. But even if the opinion was negative, I don't think it deserved the whole back and forth, especially because Khi Kai and Keanu begin to go back and forth, and Keanu turned it into a situation of, oh, you wanted me and I didn't want you, and that's why you're so upset, and that's why you're just blowing this out of proportion. And Khi Lavene basically said, those messages where I reached out to you to try to collab and encourage you was over 3 years ago. You need to get over yourself, and this is why your boyfriend is blase, blase, blase. And then Munjileel jumped in to defend his man because I want to say thank you to my man. Thank you to my man. You know, they're all love and shit now. But just 2 weeks ago was Love and Hip Hop up in here.
And my man, thank you to my man.
But moving forward, he jumped in to defend him and called Khi Lavene 3 times their age and old, and it's just all so contrived. Nico, listen, as someone who does marketing for this scene and as someone who like keeps up to date with this information, first and foremost, it was not that bad of a critique to warrant a public meltdown between like 5 different bitches, if I'm being quite honest. But also, it was an honest critique. Like, my only favorite parts of the previews that I've seen, because Khi Lavene said, don't pretend like you don't know what the cabin trip saw. Everybody has seen the cabin. First and foremost, don't get a big head. I understand you're like, what do you call it? A veteran. There's like another term for it, like a tenured. I understand you're a tenured performer, but to be like, everybody has seen the cabin trips, girl, be calm. Because the only ones that I actively saw from this go round, let me say it that way, because it wasn't getting a lot of traction on anyone's page, if I'm being quite honest, and that's just me looking analytically, was Chino Black, just because he came out of retirement recently. And as someone who was a fan of Chino Black, I try to keep, you know, up to date with his scene. So when I saw that he was in the cabin trip, I was slightly interested. And then I saw he was laying pipe. And I was like, hold on. And I don't say that because versatile men aren't a valid form of sexuality. I say that because I've never seen Chino Black top before. Just because he has like the perfect butt. Listen, if you... take a minute from this video and go Google like Chino Black. Trust me on this one. So I've never seen him actually top, but he was doing the damn thing, and I'm just sitting here like, you know what? Kudos to you, bitch, because you was working it. You was getting your life, and I adored it. But other than that, I ain't seen no clips from the quote-unquote cabin trip. I ain't seen nobody talking about it, just because it's began to become one of those situations where it doesn't look like it's organic. It looks like everybody's doing the most to try to stand out and try to make money, which at the end of the day is the goal, since it is work, so I understand. But it seems so mechanical, and I don't want that. This is not this is not like a clear shot to come attack me on my physical appearance, bitch, because usually I'm at a 10. Right now, acne, I'm not even gonna front with you, but the scenes weren't that dynamic, especially since this is like the 4th or the 5th one, I'm assuming, just because you've been doing this for a minute. So I definitely want to hear your opinions down below. Have you watched the Cabin series? Has it's quote-unquote lost its luster? Do you feel like it's still sexy and vibrant and new even after like the 6th edition? Do you feel like Keanu was just jealous because he didn't get the invite? Or do you feel like Khi Lavene decided to bite back because Keanu wouldn't give him no nookie on camera? There's layers to this. There's different angles to this. This shit's in different areas. Girl, it's 5 a.m. and this I'm telling you, that this topic in particular, it was just so ridiculous that I just had to sit there and look at it for a second, because y'all got Chino Black arguing over some random performance opinion. Like, girl, it was not that important. But yes, definitely leave your opinions down below, because this way I had to roll my eyes at it. But yes, until next time. Boop. And now for a brief yet sincere shout out to this week's Third Eye Tier subscribers, Michael T and CKC. Your continued support is greatly appreciated, and thank you once again for everyone who supports the channel. In this week's live stream discussion will be over the appeal of DL men and what still draws people to them in 2023. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in.